Lyra walked quietly through the glowing forest of Zyphera. The trees around her shimmered in colors that seemed alive, their leaves glowing softly in the night. Every step she took made a faint sound, like small chimes ringing through the air. Most of her classmates would have thought this forest was too ordinary to visit, but to Lyra, it was her only safe place. She had always felt invisible. Her bright, shimmering skin reflected light in a way that made her stand out, and her long, thin antennae twitched when she was nervous. But instead of admiration, she got looks of confusion or annoyance from others. The other alien children of Zyphera were busy playing games, studying, and practicing their skills. But none of them ever noticed her drawings, her ideas, or even her presence. Lyra sighed as she walked deeper into the forest. The glowing plants lit her path, but they could not light the sadness she carried inside. She loved to draw, and every evening she would sketch creatures and scenes she imagined. Some were creatures that glowed like the trees, others were tiny beings with wings and tails that flickered like the stars. But even when she showed her notebook to others, they only glanced at it and turned away. "I wish someone could see me," she whispered to herself, letting the words float into the glowing night. "I wish someone could really see me. Not just my skin, or my antennae, but me." Her antennae twitched nervously as a rustling sound came from the bushes. Lyra froze. The forest could be full of harmless creatures, but it could also be home to wild predators that were dangerous to young aliens. She held her breath and peeked behind a tree. It was not a predator. A human explorer was walking cautiously through the forest. His suit glowed faintly under Zyphera's bioluminescent light, and his eyes shone with curiosity. Lyra had seen humans before on holograms, visiting other planets, but she had never met one in person. Most Zypherans found humans strange and noisy. But this one, he seemed calm. He was not rushing or pointing at the forest with demands. He was watching. He was looking closely. Lyra's curiosity overcame her fear. She stepped closer, careful not to make noise. She watched as the human crouched near a glowing plant, carefully touching the soft leaves with what seemed like wonder. He even took out a small device and recorded it. He's not afraid, Lyra thought, and he is noticing the little things, just like I do. For the first time in a long while, Lyra felt a flicker of hope. Maybe he could see more than just what everyone else saw. Maybe he could see her, too. She stayed hidden for a few moments, watching him. The human's eyes moved slowly, scanning the plants, the light, and the small creatures that hopped around. He seemed to smile, though she could not be sure. His body language was gentle, open, and kind. Lyra realized that humans were very different from Zyphorans. Zyphorans valued strength, speed, and skill. But humans seemed to value curiosity and learning. Lyra had been thinking about humans for months. She had read about their stories on her holoscreen, learning how they explored planets, discovered new life, and celebrated differences. Unlike Zyphorans, humans often admired what made someone unusual. They called it creativity, bravery, or intelligence. She wondered if a human could understand her feelings, the feelings of being invisible in a world that was always watching everyone else. She noticed that the human had set up a small, glowing device near a stream. Water flowed through the rocks, reflecting the light like liquid stars. Lyra knelt behind a bush, sketching what she saw. Her pencil moved quickly across the page, drawing the human carefully observing the plants and water. She felt alive for the first time in days. Drawing made her feel strong, even if no one else saw her. After some time, the human stood up and walked closer to her hiding spot. Lyra's heart pounded. Maybe he is going to see me, she thought, though fear still tingled in her antennae. But the human did not leave. He stopped, turned slightly, and seemed to look around the forest. He did not notice her yet, but he also did not leave in a hurry. Lyra took a deep breath. She had to be brave. Slowly, she stepped out from behind the bush. The leaves brushed her arms, leaving faint sparks of light on her skin. She held her notebook close and walked toward the human. "Hello," she said softly. The human turned quickly, his eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, hello," he replied in a calm voice. Lyra's antennae twitched nervously. I didn't expect to see a human either," she said. Her voice was soft, almost swallowed by the night. The human smiled gently. "I'm Ethan," he said. "I'm exploring Zyphora. And you must be a local. I saw you moving through the forest. You were careful, observant. That's a good skill here." Lyra blinked. No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever called her careful or observant. Most people ignored her or laughed at her differences. Her heart lifted slightly. I'm Lyra," she said, holding out her notebook. I like to draw the forest. The creatures. Things people don't usually see." Ethan's eyes brightened. "May I see?" he asked politely. Lyra hesitated for a moment. Could she trust him? But something about his gentle voice and kind eyes made her nod. She opened her notebook and flipped to a page filled with glowing creatures that looked like they could fly, swim, and vanish into the light. Ethan leaned closer, his eyes scanning each page carefully. "These are incredible," he said. "You have such imagination. Look at the details. You notice things most people don't even see." "That is special." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. "Special?" she whispered. No one had ever said that about her before. She had always thought that being different made her invisible, unimportant, or strange. "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "Being different is what makes you valuable. You see the world in ways others cannot. That is a gift. Not something to hide." Lyra's antennae twitched with excitement. She felt a new kind of courage rising inside her. Someone had seen her. Really seen her. Not just her glowing skin or her unusual antennae, but her thoughts, her creativity, her heart. For the rest of the evening, Lyra and Ethan walked through the forest together. She showed him her favorite spots, the waterfall that sparkled like liquid glass, the glowing plants that opened at night, and the small creatures that hopped and shimmered in the dark. Ethan listened to everything she said, asked questions, and sometimes even laughed at her stories in a way that made her feel included. Lyra felt a light she had never felt before. It was not the glow of the plants or the shimmer of her skin. It was the glow of being understood. For the first time, she did not feel invisible. She felt seen. As the stars rose over Zyphora's sky, Lyra realized that maybe the world was not always a place that ignored her. Maybe there were beings, humans, aliens, or even herself who could look beyond appearances and see the true value of a soul. That night, as she returned home, she clutched her notebook tightly. She would draw again tomorrow. She would keep sharing her ideas. And maybe, just maybe, she would find more humans, or even other aliens, who could see her for who she truly was. Lyra slept with her antenna twitching lightly, dreaming of glowing forests, shining stars, and a new kind of courage that was just beginning to bloom inside her heart. The invisible girl of Zyphora had taken her first step toward being seen, and nothing would ever feel the same again. The next morning, Lyra woke with her heart still light from the previous night. The forest of Zyphora had never seemed so bright and alive. Her glowing skin shimmered softly in the early light, and for the first time in a long while, she felt a quiet excitement. Today, she thought, might be different. She grabbed her notebook and rushed to her favorite clearing, a place where the trees formed a circle and soft glowing flowers carpeted the ground. It was the perfect spot for drawing, and now it was also the perfect spot to meet Ethan again if he came. Lyra settled on the soft grass and opened her notebook. Her pencil moved quickly, capturing the delicate shapes of the glowing flowers and the strange, tiny creatures that flitted through the air. She drew faster than usual, inspired by the thought of showing Ethan her new ideas. She had imagined entire worlds on Zyphora, creatures that glowed in colors no one had ever seen before. and landscapes that shifted and sparkled like liquid light. She heard footsteps on the soft grass and looked up. Ethan was approaching, carefully stepping between the glowing flowers. He smiled warmly when he saw her. "Good morning, Lyra," he said. "I thought I might find you here." Lyra smiled shyly. "Good morning, Ethan. I was drawing again. Do you want to see?" Ethan knelt beside her. "I would love to." Lyra turned the pages, showing him new creatures, some that floated on the air like tiny clouds, and others that changed colors to blend with the glowing plants. Ethan's eyes widened with wonder. "These are amazing," he said softly. "You have a gift, Lyra. You can see things that others miss, and you can make them real on paper. That is rare." Lyra's antennae twitched nervously. "Rare?" she whispered. Most aliens would have just ignored her drawings or laughed at the strange creatures. "But I always feel invisible. No one cares about my drawings." Ethan shook his head. "You're wrong. Some people may not notice at first. But it doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means they don't understand yet. The important thing is that you see it. And you care. That matters more than anything else." Lyra felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had never thought of it like that. Her sketches, her ideas, her imagination. They were not just floating in space. Useless. They were part of her, and someone had recognized their worth. "Do you really think so?" she asked softly. "I know so," Ethan replied. "Humans often celebrate differences. We believe everyone has something unique to offer. You are special, Lyra. And your drawings, they are wonderful." Lyra blinked. She had never been called special by anyone. Not by her classmates. Not by her teachers. Not even by her family. The words felt like sunlight on her face, gentle but strong, filling her with courage she had not known she possessed. For the rest of the morning, they walked through the glowing forest together. Lyra showed Ethan her favorite spots, the waterfall that sparkled like liquid stars, the grove of singing plants that vibrated when touched, and the tiny glowing insects that danced in the air like flickering lanterns. Ethan asked questions about everything. He wanted to know how the singing plants worked, what the insects ate, and why the flowers glowed so brightly at night. Lyra answered carefully, realizing she had never explained these things to anyone before. It felt strange but exciting to share her knowledge. At one point, Lyra pointed to a small, glowing creature perched on a rock. "This is a Nevra," she said. "It is very shy, and it only comes out at night. It eats the glowing pollen from flowers, and it makes its nest in the roots of trees." Ethan crouched down and observed the Nevra carefully. "It's beautiful," he said. "And you noticed it. You saw what no one else could see. That is amazing, Lyra." Lyra's heart swelled with pride. For the first time, she felt that being different was not a problem. It was a gift. Her skin, her antennae, her careful observation, they were all part of her, and someone else appreciated them. They stopped near the waterfall, where the water fell in thin streams that glowed in blue and green light. Lyra opened her notebook and began sketching the scene, capturing every ripple, every shimmer, and every reflection. Ethan watched quietly, sometimes pointing out details she had missed, like the way a leaf reflected the light, or the pattern of ripples in the water. "You see things carefully," Ethan said after a while. "That is why your drawings are so detailed. You notice the beauty in small things. Many people miss it completely." Lyra smiled, her antennae twitching in delight. I guess I always liked watching, but no one else seemed to care." "Croat." Ethan shook his head. "That is because they do not see with the same eyes. But some people do, Lyra. And I am glad I met you. You have a special way of looking at the world, and it inspires me." The words made Lyra feel lighter than she had in years. She had always felt invisible, ignored, and small. But Ethan's words made her realize that invisibility was not about being unnoticed. It was about being seen by the right people. And now, someone had seen her. They spent the afternoon exploring further, discovering hidden caves where glowing crystals grew, and small pools where tiny water creatures shimmered like living jewels. Lyra began teaching Ethan about the creatures and plants of Zyphora, explaining their habits, their colors, and their unique properties. Ethan listened carefully, always asking thoughtful questions, always showing interest. At one point, they sat near a crystal cave. Lyra sketched the reflections of the crystals on the water. Ethan watched her hands move over the pages, fascinated by her skill. "You are very talented," he said quietly. "And you are patient. That is why your drawings are so good. Not everyone can do what you do." Lyra felt a deep sense of happiness. It was not just about praise, it was about being understood, being appreciated, being valued. Her chest felt full, as if her courage was growing inside her. "Do you really think I can be good at this?" she asked softly. Ethan nodded. "Absolutely. But being good is not the same as being special. You are already special, Lyra. Your talent is just one part of it. Your heart, your curiosity, your patience. Those are part of what makes you unique." Lyra smiled. For the first time, she felt proud of herself, proud of who she was, and not just her abilities. She realized that she had been measuring herself against others for too long, trying to fit in, trying to be like everyone else. But being like everyone else had never worked. Being herself was the real gift. As the sun began to set, painting the forest with soft golden light, Ethan and Lyra returned to the clearing where they had met. Lyra packed her notebook carefully, feeling a new sense of purpose. "Thank you," she said quietly. For noticing me." Ethan smiled warmly. "No, Lyra. Thank you. You showed me a world I could not have seen without you. And you reminded me that being curious and kind can make a difference, no matter who you are." Lyra felt her chest warm with happiness. She had never felt so connected to another being before, not even her classmates, not even her family. Ethan had shown her that connection was possible, that someone could truly see her, and that made all the difference. As they parted ways that evening, Lyra walked home slowly, thinking about everything she had learned. She realized that being different was not something to hide. It was something to embrace. She had always loved her drawings, her observations, and her quiet nature. Now, she understood that these things made her unique and important. That night, Lyra lay in bed, her notebook on the table beside her. She sketched softly by the light of her glowing skin, thinking of the creatures she had discovered, the hidden places she had explored, and the human who had reminded her that her uniqueness was a gift. She whispered to herself, "I am not invisible, I am me. And that is enough." For the first time in her life, Lyra felt a quiet confidence growing inside her. She did not need everyone to notice her. She only needed to notice herself and to have someone like Ethan who could see her true self. The night sky of Zyphora glowed above her window, stars flickering like tiny sparks of hope. Lyra knew that tomorrow would bring new adventures, new discoveries, and new chances to share her gift. She felt ready. She felt strong. She felt seen. And with that, she drifted into sleep, dreaming of glowing forests, shimmering waterfalls, and a bright future where she could finally shine. The morning sun of Zyphora filtered softly through Lyra's window. She woke feeling different, lighter, braver, and more hopeful. After days of feeling invisible, something inside her had shifted. She had discovered that someone could see her, truly see her, and that realization gave her a courage she had never felt before. Lyra picked up her notebook immediately. She began sketching the creatures she had seen with Ethan, the glowing plants of the forest, and the small details she had always noticed, but never shared with anyone. Her hand moved quickly, confident and precise. Each stroke of her pencil felt like a small victory. Today was not just another day in her quiet life. Today, she decided, she would share her drawings with her classmates. She was nervous, very nervous, but she also felt something stronger than fear. Determination. She had spent too long hiding. It was time to be seen. At school, Lyra carried her notebook carefully under her arm. She walked down the glowing corridors, her antennae twitching with each step. Most of her classmates were busy practicing skills, running experiments, or talking with friends. Some glanced at her briefly, but most ignored her completely. It was the familiar feeling of invisibility. But Lyra took a deep breath and reminded herself of Ethan's words. Being different is what makes you special. You only need to see yourself first. She found an empty corner in the main classroom and opened her notebook. The creatures she had drawn practically shimmered on the pages, as if alive. Lyra took a deep breath and spoke softly. Would anyone like to see my drawings? For a moment, there was silence. Some students glanced at her, some whispered to each other, and a few rolled their eyes. Lyra felt her old fear creeping back. Maybe no one would care. Maybe she was still invisible. Then, one student, her classmate Tira, stepped closer. Those creatures, did you draw them? She asked. Eyes wide, Lyra nodded. Yes, I drew them from the forest. Some of them are real. Some are from my imagination. Tira leaned closer and studied the notebook carefully. They're amazing. I've never seen anything like this. Lyra's heart lifted. One person had noticed. One person cared. And that was enough to give her the courage to keep going. Slowly, more students came over. Some were curious, some skeptical, but all of them looked at her drawings. Lyra explained each creature, describing its habits, its colors, and its unique qualities. For the first time, she spoke without fear. She realized that sharing her work was not about being praised, it was about showing her world to others. By the end of the day, several students had asked her to teach them how to draw. Some wanted to explore the forest with her. Some simply wanted to learn to see the world as she did. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. She had never imagined that others would want to learn from her. She had never imagined that being herself could make a difference. After school, Lyra returned to the forest. She wanted to show Ethan what had happened. When she arrived at their favorite clearing, she saw him waiting, smiling. You look happy, Ethan said. I am, Lyra replied, her antennae twitching with excitement. I shared my drawings at school today. Some students, they liked them. Some even wanted to learn from me. Ethan's eyes lit up. That is wonderful, Lyra. See? You have talent, and your confidence is growing. You are making a difference already. Lyra smiled. It feels amazing. I never thought I could do this. You can do anything you set your mind to, Ethan said. And the more you believe in yourself, the more others will believe in you too. Together, they explored deeper into the forest than before. Lyra showed Ethan hidden groves where the glowing flowers were rare, pools where tiny creatures danced in the water, and caves where crystals sparkled in every color imaginable. Ethan listened to her explanations with wonder, always asking questions and encouraging her to share more. As they walked, Lyra realized something important. She had always thought that being invisible meant she was unimportant. But now she understood that invisibility was only about perception. People might overlook her at first, but that did not change her value. Her skills, her creativity, and her heart had worth that could be seen if she had courage to show it. Over the next few days, Lyra continued sharing her drawings at school. Each time she spoke, her voice grew stronger. Each time she showed her work, her confidence increased, and each time, more students began to notice. Some even asked her to help with their projects, asking for her input and her creative ideas. One afternoon, as she was helping a group of younger students with a drawing exercise, a teacher approached. The teacher had been observing Lyra quietly for weeks, noticing her dedication and her creativity. Lyra, the teacher said kindly, your work is remarkable. You have a unique vision, and your talent is inspiring others. I would like to display your drawings in the school gallery for the festival. Lyra felt her antennae quiver with excitement. The festival? She asked. Yes, the teacher replied. It is a celebration of creativity and discovery. Your drawings would be a wonderful addition. Lyra's chest swelled with pride. She had never imagined her work would be recognized in such a way. For the first time, she truly felt that her efforts had meaning, that her uniqueness could be appreciated, and that she could shine in her own way. That evening, she met Ethan at the clearing by the waterfall. She showed him the invitation to the festival. "They want to display my work," she said, barely able to contain her excitement. I am going to be seen by everyone." Ethan smiled warmly. "You deserve it, Lyra. You have worked hard, shared your gifts, and inspired others. This is just the beginning." Lyra's thoughts drifted to the students who had once ignored her, the classmates who had laughed at her, and the long nights she had spent feeling invisible. Now, those memories seemed distant, almost unreal. She realized that invisibility had been a temporary feeling, not a permanent state. With courage, patience, and the support of a friend, she had begun to change her world. In the days that followed, Lyra prepared for the festival. She refined her drawings, added new creatures, and even created a large mural showing the glowing forests of Zyphora. She worked late into the night, her pencil moving with confidence, her heart filled with excitement. She was no longer afraid of being seen. She wanted to be seen. She wanted to share her vision with the world. On the day of the festival, Lyra walked through the school halls, carrying her drawings carefully. The halls were decorated with colorful lights, shimmering fabrics, and glowing sculptures created by students from all over Zyphora. When she arrived at the gallery, she was amazed. Her drawings were placed in the center, surrounded by glowing lights that made them shimmer even more. As the students, teachers, and parents began to gather, Lyra felt a nervous excitement. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to explain her work. "My drawings show the creatures and places of Zyphora," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Some are real, some are imagined. But they are all part of my world, and I wanted to share it with all of you." The crowd listened quietly, watching her as she spoke. For the first time, Lyra realized that being different was not something to hide. It was something to celebrate. Her unique perspective, her glowing skin, and her careful observation, all of it made her work special. When she finished speaking, the crowd erupted in applause. Students she had never spoken to before came forward to compliment her. Teachers nodded with pride. Even some of the classmates who had ignored her in the past looked at her with respect. Lyra's heart swelled with joy. Ethan stood at the back, smiling proudly. "You did it, Lyra," he said. "You are shining brightly now, and the world can see it." Lyra felt tears prick her eyes. I never thought this could happen," she whispered. "I never thought anyone would see me like this." Ethan stepped forward. "You've always been here, Lyra. I just helped you see it too. The courage was inside you all along." Lyra looked around at the crowd, at her drawings shimmering under the lights, and at Ethan standing beside her. She realized something important. Courage and confidence could grow, slowly and carefully. Just like the glowing plants of Zyphora, they needed care, patience, and support. And when they grew, they could light up the world. That night, Lyra returned to the forest alone. She sat by the waterfall and reflected on the journey so far. She had started as a girl who felt invisible, ignored, and small. Now, she was someone who had shared her vision, inspired others, and discovered the value of her own uniqueness. She felt proud not just of her work, but of herself. Lyra knew that the festival was just the beginning. There were more creatures to discover, more places to explore, and more ideas to share. But she also knew that she no longer needed to be afraid. She had learned that being different was a gift, and that courage and confidence could make even the invisible visible. The stars of Zyphora twinkled above, reflecting in the water below. Lyra smiled, her antennae twitching gently in contentment. She had found her voice. She had found her courage, and she had found the joy of being truly seen. The invisible girl of Zyphora was no longer invisible. She had begun to shine, and nothing would ever make her hide again. The day of the festival arrived, and the school of Zyphera was alive with excitement. Bright lights, glowing decorations, and the soft hum of conversation filled the halls. Students and teachers from across the planet had gathered to celebrate creativity, discovery, and the unique talents of each individual. For Lyra, it was a day she had dreamed about, but had never imagined she would truly experience. Her drawings, carefully packed and protected, were displayed in the central gallery. The walls were lined with glowing artwork from other students, but her pieces shone with a particular brilliance. Creatures she had imagined, landscapes she had observed in secret, and glowing forests she had explored filled the room. Each drawing told a story, and each story was part of Lyra herself. She walked through the gallery, her antennae twitching nervously. Some students passed by without a glance, but most stopped, their eyes drawn to her work. She noticed small smiles, whispered comments, and people pointing at her creatures with admiration. The feeling was strange and wonderful. She was no longer invisible. A teacher approached, her eyes kind and bright. "Lyra, your work is exceptional. The creativity, the detail, the imagination you have brought a new light to this festival. Would you like to speak to the visitors about your drawings?" Lyra's chest swelled with nervous excitement. Speaking in front of so many people was something she had never imagined doing. But now she felt ready. She nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered. The gallery quieted as Lyra stepped forward. The crowd included teachers, students, parents, and even visitors from other schools on Zyphera. Her glowing skin shimmered softly under the lights. Her antennae twitched nervously, but she felt a deep strength inside her. "My name is Lyra," she began. "These are my drawings. They show the creatures, the plants, and the places I have discovered in the forests of Zyphera. Some of these creatures are real. Some are from my imagination. But all of them are part of the world I see, and I wanted to share it with all of you." She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. The room was quiet, listening. "Then," she continued, "I used to feel invisible. I thought that because I was different, no one would notice me. But I have learned something very important. Being different is not a weakness. It is a gift. Each of us has something unique to offer. Each of us has something valuable to share." The crowd listened intently, their eyes on her. Lyra felt her confidence grow with every word. She continued speaking, explaining the stories behind each creature, the way they moved, the way they glowed, and the lessons they taught her about patience, observation, and courage. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Students and teachers alike approached her to compliment her work, to ask questions, and to thank her for sharing her vision. Even the classmates who had ignored her before looked at her with admiration. Lyra's heart swelled with pride. Ethan, standing at the back of the crowd, smiled warmly. He had been there since the festival began, watching quietly, knowing that Lyra had the courage to shine on her own. "You did it, Lyra," he said softly when they met after the presentation. "You were incredible. You spoke from your heart, and everyone could see the brilliance inside you." Lyra smiled, her antennae twitching with happiness. I feel different now," she admitted. "I feel like I belong. I feel like I can share my ideas and be proud of who I am." "That is because you are brave," Ethan said. "You believed in yourself, and you let others see your light. That is a true gift." As the festival continued, Lyra walked around the gallery, showing her drawings to visitors, explaining the creatures and plants, and even demonstrating how to draw some of the glowing insects she loved. Younger students gathered around her, their eyes wide with admiration and excitement. Some of them had always felt invisible, like she once did, and now they saw her as someone who could guide them. Lyra realized that she had become more than an artist. She had become a mentor, an inspiration, and a role model. Her courage, her creativity, and her willingness to share her world had transformed her from the invisible girl she once was into a bright, shining presence that others looked up to. During a short break, Lyra and Ethan sat by a fountain outside the gallery. Water shimmered in the sunlight, reflecting the glowing colors of Zyphora's sky. You know, Ethan said thoughtfully, humans often talk about something called Humanity F. Yeah, it's about celebrating courage, creativity, and the power of people to make a difference. You are exactly that, Lyra. You showed bravery, inspired others, and shared your vision with the world. Lyra laughed softly, a sound of pure joy. I never imagined I could do all that. I used to think being different was a problem. Now I know it is my strength. Ethan nodded. It always was. You just needed to see it for yourself. And sometimes, a little encouragement helps. Lyra felt her heart swell. Ethan had helped her believe in herself. But she had done the work. She had taken the courage he offered and turned it into action. She had shared her world, inspired others, and discovered the joy of being truly seen. As the festival drew to a close, Lyra's drawings were awarded a special recognition for creativity and imagination. The applause was loud and heartfelt, echoing through the halls of the school. She stood on the small stage, glowing softly, and accepted the recognition with pride. She looked out at the crowd, seeing faces full of admiration, respect, and gratitude. Lyra realized something important. Recognition was not just about awards or praise. It was about being understood, being appreciated, and making a positive impact on others. She had done all of that, and it felt incredible. After the festival, Lyra continued to explore the forest with Ethan. They discovered new creatures, mapped hidden groves, and experimented with drawing techniques that combined imagination and observation. Lyra taught younger students to appreciate the small details of Zyphora, showing them how to see the beauty in what others often missed. Her confidence grew each day. She no longer felt invisible in the classroom, the forest, or among her peers. She had found her voice, her vision, and her courage. And she had learned that being different was a gift that could inspire, teach, and brighten the world. One evening, as they watched the glowing sunset over the bioluminescent hills, Lyra spoke softly. I never thought I could feel like this. Seen, appreciated, proud of who I am. Ethan smiled, his eyes reflecting the warm glow of the hills. You always could. You just needed to believe it. Now you do. And that makes all the difference. Lyra looked out at the horizon, the sky painted in colors that mirrored her drawings. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the forest, for her creatures, for her friends, and for the human who had helped her see herself. From that day forward, Lyra continued to shine. She created new drawings, discovered new places, and inspired more students to embrace their uniqueness. She had learned the most important lesson of all. Courage, kindness, and creativity could transform invisibility into brilliance. And a single word of encouragement could change a life forever. The invisible girl of Zyphora was gone. In her place stood Lyra, the girl who had found her voice, her vision, and her confidence. She was no longer just an observer of the world. She was a creator, a mentor, and a bright light in the lives of those around her. The forests of Zyphora glowed brighter than ever that night, reflecting the light inside Lyra's heart. She had discovered that being different was not a challenge to overcome, but a strength to celebrate. And with that strength, she would continue to shine, inspiring everyone who crossed her path. Lyra whispered to the stars above, I am seen, I am brave, I am me. And for the first time, she knew she would never feel invisible again.